Hey, Slater Crusaders, America's the greatest country in the world. This is our series on the worst presidents ever. And it's just frustrating to me always that FDR is often considered the best president ever. Listen, there are 45 of them, right? If you want to put him at like 20-something, you'll be like, no, okay, fine. But when he's like up there with Washington and Lincoln, it's like, what are you kidding me? But then you realize that usually these rankings are a survey of historians who are as far left as they come. So of course they're going to put FDR at the top because no one grew the size of the federal government like FDR. So of course, if you want to grow the size of the government, you're going to rank FDR as one of the best presidents. Now, a lot of people say, oh, he led the country through the Great Depression. Sure. But is there any consideration that maybe he made the Great Depression worse? Maybe the New Deal policies he enacted is what made the Great Depression so great and what made it last so long. From 1936 on, every New Deal thing that he came up with, by the way, the New Deal is always praised in history books in school. There's never anything critical at all. It was perfection. The bigger the government, the better. But everything he came up with in 1936 on, the Supreme Court just kept knocking it down. Just crushing every single thing he came up with because every program was obviously unconstitutional. But then FDR came up with this idea of court packing, which is terrible policy, and we're hearing the same talks of it now, right? It's terrible policy, but it also says a lot about FDR the person, FDR the man. So he proposed this, it was in 1937, it's called court packing, it's called the Judicial Procedures Reform Bill or something. And FDR was going to add 6 new justices to the Supreme Court. Here's a cartoon from the era of that, right? And obviously these 6 new justices would just be puppets of his, doing whatever he wants. Fortunately, this never happened. But again, great insight into the person who would even propose such a thing. Back to the economy. We were all taught as kids in school that we had the Great Depression, FDR saved us, and then after World War II, there was a post-war economic boom, right? And it's because of the end of the war. That's what they say, right? It was the end of the war and then like it all turned. Or was there a post-war economic boom, not because it was the end of the war, but because it was the end of a lot of the New Deal programs? Once the war ended, a lot of the New Deal programs ended, and that's perhaps why the economy did so much better. We'll talk about that coming up in a little bit as well. Not all these programs went away, though, by the way. Right? As Milton Friedman said, there's nothing more permanent than a temporary government program. And FDR is the king of this. Fannie Mae started with him. Now the government's in the housing business. What? Where's that in the Constitution? The National Labor Relations Board? What's that? Right? That's not in the Constitution. Now the labor unions and the federal government are working for each other, right? The unions collect dues that they spend to elect Democrats who pass bills helping unions. What's that about?
Subscribe to The First TV today for instant access to exclusive specials and content you actually want to watch. Your support helps The First TV fuel the fight against those seeking to destroy our right to free speech. Simply visit thefirsttv.com/support to join the fight today.